Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Thakwas Bane bringing you all manner of tabletop gaming. Please take a moment to like, subscribe, add some comments, ring the bell to be notified of future uploads. And today is October the 13th, 2023. And it just so happens that the month of horror includes a Friday the 13th. Yes, today is Friday the 13th of October. So I thought it very appropriate for this horror month to include a Friday the 13th style game. And this is from Cesar Capacle. Yes, Cesar again. And what we have here is a slasher horror card-based solo RPG. Try saying that in one go. Very long descriptive title, but it is what it says. It is a game very narrative in nature in terms of you're going to need to use your creativity and your ability to generate stories and situations in your mind. And it is focused on the typical slasher movies, the ones we all love. In those movies, typically at the start, sometimes at the end, you are going to have one of those scenes where someone is running for their life. They are running away from the evil, whether it's a serial killer, whether it's a monster, an alien, but they're running away from something. Oops, sorry, not the camera. But they're running away from something. And this game, Run, tries to bring that into our games room or into our minds. We are going to create scenes, situations where we are running from this killer, murderer, alien, Lovecraftian beastie, and we're going to explain and describe what happens at every stage. Now, what do you need to play the game? Well, of course, you need the game itself, which you can download as a PDF. I'm not sure whether there are physical copies available. I'll have to check. You will need a copy of the scene sheet. Game sheet? I think it's a game sheet, but what it's going to do is it's going to keep track of every scene, and the game revolves around trying to survive 16 scenes. What else do you need? Well, you're going to need a pack of cards, just a standard deck of cards, but take out the jokers. You do not need the jokers. With that pack of cards, you are then going to separate all of the aces, kings, queens, and jacks. And you're going to shuffle into one separate deck, which is going to be called the Mundus deck. The other cards, so the cards numbered 2 through 10, are going to be separated by suit. And those are also going to be shuffled into separate packs. Now, what I would recommend is, because these are going to be shuffled and placed face down, is that you may need a little something to help you remember which deck is which. I mean, what I did was just copied and printed something from the rulebook to help me identify clubs deck, hearts deck, spades deck, and guess what? Diamonds deck. So yeah, I just printed this out very quickly just to help me remember which deck is which. Highly recommended. Right, let us have a quick look through the rule book, and then I'll go through a playthrough. Now, I'm not going to do a full playthrough. I want to show you maybe the first 4 scenes to let you see how it's working and how the game plays. But I'm probably not going to do all 16 scenes. Hang on one sec. Let's push it back better on the camera. One, because it's going to take quite a while and make the video very long. You know how long my videos are. I tend to talk a lot. So what I'm probably going to do is probably just do the first 4 scenes so you can see what happens. But I will be explaining the special scenes. And then, of course, what happens if you do survive and get to the end, scene 16, what happens then? I will tell you how that works. Right. Let me change the camera angle and we will quickly go through the book. Now, before we enter the book, before we enter the realm of Run, the slasher game, I do want to mention that I think that this game could be an amazing addition to a language class, a creative writing exercise. I think it could make an amazing assignment, group exercise, class project for language classes, creative classes, design classes, because this can work really well to develop students' creative ability, their innovative urges. And something like this is definitely going to grab their attention more than the typical classroom exercise. It's a lot of fun. It is a solo game, but I'm pretty sure that we can modify it to be a group game, maybe. I'll think about that. Right, the game of Run is a small book. It is 35 pages, and it is available on a number of platforms. I'll put down in the description below where you can find this game. Very apt for today, for Friday the 13th, but also very apt for the month of October if you want to get in some horror gaming, some Halloween gaming, some Samhain gaming. Right, as you open the game, there are some standard sort of credit pages, but there is one at the top here that I want to make a note of. I just want to make a quick note because Cedar does mention that it's a game based on something called Moving On, a narrative game by Diego Azevedo. The thing is that the link to the website doesn't exist anymore. I don't think. I couldn't find it. It says it's not currently in use. But I did just do a search for this game Moving On, and it seems to be, maybe Cesar can come and just clarify, it seems to be a game written by another Brazilian designer, because it looks like the original game was in Portuguese. So I'm going to assume that Diego Azevedo is Brazilian, but it's a similar game to this, but it seems that Cesar has modified, streamlined, maybe changed the system, but it seems that he got the inspiration from that game Moving On. I'm going to try some more to find that and see if there is a copy available in English. But like I say, my initial searching, I couldn't find it. But yeah, just a quick note that this game was inspired by this one called Moving On. Right, we have a very basic contents page. Why is it very basic? Because there's not a lot in the book, to be honest with you. There's a few sections, but in terms of actual content, it's not a huge amount. It's actually a pretty simple game. The difficulty is going to be your creativity, your ability to take the prompts and create a scene, create a story from those. And as you're going to find out, I'm not the best at that. But there are a number of chapters or sections in the book which cover everything that you need to know, obviously. Right, to begin with, we have a little bit of an overview. So let's read this. You are running, escaping, stumbling on your own legs. Your short breaths are labored and shaky. Something is after you. You don't know what it is, but you know it won't quit. Your life is at stake. You feel that it is close, as if a claw is sliding down the back of your neck. And you know you must not look back. Run! I'm not a very good voice actor, I do apologize. Right, but that's setting the scene. The game actually mentions, if we quickly fast forward a little bit, it actually says here that you should consider the villain, the enemy, the thing that's chasing you is not necessarily a serial killer. Cesar uses the word mundus, which is, I think it means the world, the universe, everything. Sort of, it's a word that can basically be used to cover a whole group of things. And in this game, it's used for the purpose of saying that what's chasing you may not be a serial killer. It may not be an alien. It may not be some kind of Cthulhu creepy It's just a stalker. To be honest with you, the first time that I played through this, it wasn't a physical stalker. The way that the cards created the prompts and the way that the story developed, what I ended up doing was that the story, it was actually something in my mind. It was like a gradual descent into madness is what this game was representing. I was physically thinking that something was chasing me, but as I was developing the story, it was actually, you know, my mind playing tricks on me, my mind sort of showing me shadows that weren't there, corrupting and warping my memories, that what I thought was real was not real. So very clever in the way that they're using, or Cesar is using this word mundus so that it can cover a whole range of things, not necessarily a Jason or a Michael. Right, let's just go back a little bit. Right, so that's the overview. Right, so to start with, it tells you what the game is. It is a solo narrative game inspired by the slasher horror movie genre. You play as a survivor of a nefarious attack and you are being chased by something. Whatever that is, it is relentless and it wants you dead. Through 16 scenes, you play to collect memories, to try and piece together what is happening while you run for your life and try not to run out of breath. Yeah, on the game sheet at the top, you have these two sections, or these two areas here, breath and memories. As you play the game, sometimes the game will tell you you gain a memory. You remember something which could help you to defeat the villain, or help you to escape, or help you to remember what it is that's chasing you, or why it's chasing you. So you'll be collecting these memories, and at the end of the game, the number of memories that you collect can actually make the difference between whether you win or lose. Your breath is a measure of how close you are to losing the game, because, again, at certain points during the game, it will tell you lose one breath. And that happens a lot more than it tells you gain one breath. But if your breath gets to 0, basically you're dead. The stalker, killer, alien, whatever catches up with you and slices you into pieces. What else is there? How to play, a quick summary of the game sequence. What you need. Oh, another thing you're going to need is either a pencil or pen. I'll be using a pen just to make what I write clearer on the camera. An eraser, obviously, if you're going to be using a pencil. Also, I mean, there is part of the game where you are asked to spin a pencil. I'm really not very good at spinning pencils, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a dice which has an arrow on it instead, so I can just roll this and just follow the arrow. This is an old Warhammer dice. This one, I think it's artillery dice. This would represent a hit, but it also has a little arrow on it. Alternatively, you could use maybe a D10 and use the pointy bit as the arrow, but I'm going to stick with this arrow dice. We'll see how that's used a bit later. Right, it then goes over the setup. I've already shown you the setup. You've basically got to take a 52 card deck without jokers, put all of the all of the, are they called face cards? Picture cards, the Jack, Queen, King and Ace. Shuffle them all together and put into one deck. So you've got here all the aces, kings, queens, jacks, etc. That is going to be called the Mundus deck. That's going to represent the chase, and there are 16 of those. There are 16 scenes. So yeah, you're going to be using one of these to represent each of the scenes. So near the end, you kind of know what cards are going to be left, and you know what's going to kind of happen. You also, like I say, split the rest, the number cards, into their respective suits and shuffle those separately. I'll shuffle those in a minute. But yeah, you start the game with 4 breath and no memories. And like I say, lose your breath, you're dead. Now, the core of this game is the creation of scenes, and From the prompts that the game gives you, you're going to generate the story of each scene. You're going to explain what's happening. And this Mundus deck is actually where you're going to take the scene cards. And the cards are going to generate pieces of information for you to generate that scene. The face of the card tells you the scene type. And you can see, I don't know whether you can see here, but because there are 4 types of card in there, a jack, if you draw a jack, it represents some kind of apparition. A queen represents some kind of bifurcation. That basically means that you have to make some kind of choice or some kind of decision. A king, if you draw a king, it represents some kind of revelation where something suddenly makes sense or you find something. And then an ace represents pursuit, so something relating to the chase itself. For each of those card types, jack, queen, king, and ace, as well as the scene type, it will also get you to roll, to spin a, I can't spin. Spin a pencil on the section below to generate a theme. Again, I'm going to be rolling dice for this, so I get safety, for example. So by drawing the card, so let's say, for example, we get, say, the Queen of Hearts. So that's our Mundus deck. For our first scene, we draw the first card. It's the Queen of Hearts. So a queen means it's some kind of choice. Is it a split path? Do I need to go forward, or is it an opportunity for me to go back and maybe get something that I forgot? Responds to a call or not? Maybe there's a phone call, like in the typical slasher movies. Scream comes to mind, where they keep making the phone calls. Do you answer the phone or not, kind of thing? And then, like I say, you roll a dice like me, or you spin a pencil. I can't spin pencils. To generate a theme. Now, for the queen, you actually have to do it twice to get 2 themes. For the jack, the apparition, you do it once. For the king, once. And for the ace, once. But they've all got separate sort of theme diagrams. Once you've done that, you then look at the suit. So in this case, it is the hearts. And that generates the intention. So you've got scene type, scene theme, and scene intention. What is the villain's intention? What is the bad guy's act in this scene? And we had the Queen of Hearts, so hearts. And again, to generate the Mundus intention, or the stalker's intention for the scene, again, you would do I'm going to do this. So we get lose. So maybe the killer has lost something and maybe we found it. But the decision is, do we take it or not? So maybe in this situation, maybe the stalker has dropped one of his weapons. He's lost one of his weapons. So maybe we find it and the decision is, do I pick it up or not? If I pick up the weapon, my fingerprints are now going to be on it. And there's blood, of course. If I leave it, then it won't be a possible piece of evidence to use against me in case, you know what sometimes happens in these movies? You did it. There's no such thing as a serial killer. You did it. Your fingerprints are on the knife. Yeah. But if I take it, I've got a weapon that maybe I could use later on. But yeah, that's essentially how the game plays in terms of generating the scenes. So at the end of that section, the scene section, it actually says, okay, build the scene. So it's basically telling you, okay, so here is where you take those prompts, those 3 prompts, type, theme, intention. Is it intention? Yeah, intention. And then generate a story. So it gives you a few little guides. Okay, so how are you going to create a story from this? How are you going to link it with the previous one? And once you do that, you come to a point where you have to have some kind of conclusion. So after you've generated the scene, created that story, well, what happens? What's your decision? Excuse me. Do they pick up the knife? Could it possibly be used? Is it dangerous? Is something else going to happen? And that climax to each scene, and again, remember, there's going to be 16 scenes. You've got the scene resolution. So for each scene, you need a resolution. Now for that, you've got a choice to make, and this is what we call the approach. You have to decide which of the 4 suit decks, which have cards numbered 2 to 10, which one of these are you going to use to conclude that scene? And if you choose clubs, you're meeting the challenge using your mind, intellect, tactics, inventiveness, and creativity. So it's ways of approaching the scene or approaching the prompts to try and solve whatever's going on. Hearts, choose this option if you resolve the scene using your emotions, sensitivity, connection with others, or your hope. Spades, choose this if you act impulsively, provoking direct conflict or physical confrontation. And the last one, diamonds. The diamonds deck, if you want to use the resources at your disposal, so for example, in a future scene, you could use the knife. To overcome the challenge, use material things or the fruit of a craft. So, once you have generated the 3 scene prompts, you've generated the story or you've created the narrative for that scene, you've then got to decide how you're going to finish it. So you choose one method, one approach of ending the scene. What you then do is you will take from the deck that you have chosen clubs, hearts, spades, or diamonds. And you're going to choose a number of cards up to the amount of breath that you have. Now, this reflects the fact that if you've been running for a while and you've been losing your breath, you're getting tired, you may not be able to accomplish what you want to do as easily as you're running short of breath, your stamina is low, you make mistakes. So as you lose breath, you actually have a lower chance of succeeding at what you want to do at the end of every scene. So when you have full breath, when you've got 4 breath at the start of the game, you can draw up to 4 cards from your chosen deck, your approach. If you have lost a breath through some result in the game, so you've only got 3 breath left, then you can only pick up to 3 cards from your chosen deck. Now, why would you not just choose the maximum number? Why would you not just choose as many cards as possible? Well, here's the thing. Also, these decks are going to be face down. They're going to be shuffled. I did actually shuffle them, but I will quickly shuffle them again. These decks are going to run out, okay, into a discard pile. Now, the thing is, you're not going to get the cards back until all the decks are empty. So if you use a lot of cards, for example, if you use a lot of cards from spades, if you approach the first few scenes using spades, so you're using conflict, physical confrontation. If you use spades for the first few scenes and it runs out, you can't use that approach anymore until all the other decks have been completed. What that's going to do, in some cases, it's going to make it harder for you to justify why you choose a certain approach in a certain scene. So it's going to make the storytelling much more of a challenge. Also, as you use the cards, you may find that you use the good cards early, in which case you may not want to use that deck anymore because you know that it's only got low cards left. And yes, high cards are good, low cards are bad. So it's not always the best idea to use a high number of cards as you're trying to resolve a scene. Of course, using more is better in terms of trying to get the result you want, but like I'm saying, there is some kind of management, some kind of resource management involved with these decks. But once all the decks are empty, you can then take the discard pile, separate them again, shuffle them again, and create new decks, new approach decks. Right, so as you come to the end of the scene, you make a decision what approach you want to use. Let's say we're going with spades. We want to, maybe we found that knife earlier and we want to use the knife to kind of wound or to force away our stalker, possibly, or one of their minions, for example. Let's say that I have my maximum breath, so I can take up to 4 cards, but I want to just take 3 cards because I want to pass it. And there's a lot of cards there at the moment, but I don't want to kind of reduce my options too early in the game. So I'm taking 3 cards. And this is your scene resolution. This is how that scene is going to end. So what you then do is you look at the cards that you drew. Okay, this is not too bad. I mean, it's good because you got the 10. Now the 10 is actually the highest card in these decks. So obviously that's good. The bad thing is that the other cards that I drew could also be quite useful. What do I mean by that? Well, when you draw the cards, you take the highest value and then you check to see how your scene concluded. A 2 to 5, if your highest card is a 2 to 5, it's a failure. Things go wrong. You lose 1 breath, and if your breath reaches 0, you're dead. You're defeated by the Mundus, by the Stalker or whatever. And in terms of the narrative, you have to explain some kind of consequence. Think the consequence, the conclusion didn't go as you planned. Things went wrong. You lost 1 breath. And again, remember, you've only got 4 to start with. So again, in the narrative sense, in the story sense, in the creative sense, you've now got to explain what happened. And you've got to think in terms of the suit, the approach that you took. So in this case, I chose spades. So I've got to think of a consequence related to my physical state, such as injury, exhaustion, illness, fractures. So you need to come up with a result, a negative result of what you did. If you have, for example, here, if our highest card is a 6 to 8, it's a complication. The outcome was not the best. You have a choice. You can make an extra effort to get the result you wanted. Now, in that case, you lose 1 breath, but you gain 1 memory. But you've also got another choice. If you don't want to lose a breath, you can choose to not lose breath, in which case you don't get the memory. So 6 to 8, you have to make a decision. Do you want to lose a breath but gain a memory? Or do you basically want nothing to happen and again add some narrative? Now in our case, we got a 10, which is a 9 or 10 is a success. So with the success, you got what you wanted. You are safe from the Mundus for a brief moment. Your success also brought you a memory, a glimpse into what is actually happening. So on your game sheet, you would mark 1 memory. And again, at the end of the game, these memories are going to be the difference between you winning or losing. These cards would then go into a discard pile and do not get reshuffled back until all the decks are empty, as I mentioned earlier. So, as you are creating and concluding each scene, you have the possibility of losing breath and gaining memories. Bop, bop. In the game, there are also special scenes where the normal rules don't apply, and these can be found at the edge here. Scenes 4, 8, 12, and 16. So when you're doing scenes 4, 8, 12, or 16, you will draw a Mundus card and you will basically generate a theme and intention, but the scene type is not used because each of those scenes is special. They have their own type, okay? So if you draw a king, you will come here, ignore the revelation part, but you will generate the theme prompt. You will generate, let's say, for example, the King of Spades. You will generate the intention, but you will come to these pages because each of those special scenes has its own description. So ignore the type, but generate a theme prompt and an intention prompt, and then with the information given you here for each of the special scenes, you will then generate that scene based on this and those 2 prompts, not 3 prompts. Okay? Now, if you survive all 16 scenes. Now, I've played this game a bunch of times. I haven't completed it yet. I've always died. I've always run out of breath. But if you survive all 16 scenes, you've reached the end of your journey and your potential survival. Now it is time for the resolution of your story, and this represents your final confrontation with the mundus, with the thing that's been chasing you. How does that work? Again, it's very simple but very clever. What you will do is you will draw a number of cards equal to your current breath, which is likely to be low. And what you must do is draw each card from a different approach pile if possible. If you've only got one approach pile left, then obviously you'll be drawing cards from that one pile. But if you have, for example, if you have 2 approach piles left, you have 3 breath at the end of the game, you will then draw 3 cards from those decks, at least 1 from each. Okay? From those cards that you draw, you are going to take the lowest value. Not the highest, the lowest. You then compare with the number of memories that you have collected. Dum, dum, dum. And here's the final outcome. If the card is lower than the number of memories, it is a victory. You have succeeded. If the card is higher than the number of memories, surprise, he catches you. It's time to die. If it's equal, it is a stalemate. It is not over yet. Again, this is typical in a lot of these slasher movies where the villain doesn't quite die. The body disappears. Get ready for the sequel. And like I say, that's how the game will end based on the number of memories. That's why I said the number of memories is very, very important for the end game. And that is it. At the back of the book, there is some bonus content. Now, these are considered to be bonus prompts. If you're having a little bit of trouble with the prompts that you generate to kind of come up with an idea for the scene, you can also... You can also do these to generate some more descriptive prompts to help you come up with a better idea. Qualities and behavior. So you do one for each, combine them to give you some more prompts that you can use to help you. Now, after going through the book and showing you all of this, I'm pretty sure that you can agree that this game could be a lot of fun. It is a solo game, but I would like to see a variant of this where you can play in a group, like as a party game. Something that maybe, you know, you have all the ghost stories by the campfire, you know, that kind of thing, but you could use this as a group. I'm not sure exactly how that could work. I'll have to think about that. Maybe Cesar could also give some suggestions, because I also think that this could be a fun little exercise for a group of people. Maybe not a large group, but maybe 2, 3, maybe 4 people together, and they're all sort of explaining how they're going to be doing. Because in a lot of these slasher movies, it's not always just one person who's trying to escape. A lot of the time, you're going to see the movie through different people's viewpoints. There was what was that horror game where you've got different people all being chased and killed? What was the name of? Is it called Until Dawn? I think it was called Until Dawn, where you have this group of teenagers and one by one they're kind of chased and killed off, and you're trying to guessing who's the killer, who's responsible. Something like that using Run would be, I think, a lot of fun. But I don't know how, I mean, would you just do it as separate games combined together to tell the story? Or maybe you can modify this. Maybe you could modify this so maybe 4 players, each player does one one row of scenes, but the breath and memories are a combined resource kind of thing. That could possibly work. It's worth looking into. But I like this game. I'm not the best. I think I'm getting better in terms of the solo role play, in terms of the narrative, in terms of telling the stories. I think I am improving. And it does come with practice. So as I play more games, I'm thinking that this ability to narrate, the ability to generate stories, it will improve. So of course I should play more games. And I will. I do have a lot of RPGs and solo RPGs on the schedule, but this is a lot of fun. And as I mentioned at the start of this video, I think this would be a very good idea for some kind of creative writing, some kind of language class exercise, maybe some product creativity or design classes. Something like this, I think, would generate a lot more interest in the subject. It would definitely improve their skills as they are using the prompts to generate the scenes, to come up with the reasons. Highly, highly, highly recommended. I really do recommend this to teachers, to role players, to gamers. It may not be everyone's cup of tea in terms of the narration, in terms of the journaling style, but it is a good game once you get into it. So, this is run by Cesar Capacle. Thank you very much for watching. Have a wonderful Friday the 13th. Please take a moment to like and subscribe, especially if you enjoyed these videos and my channel. And I will see you in the next video. Take care. Stay safe. Cheers.